what structural measures has the central bank put in place? For the long term, because as it stands now, the impression is that the city gets to 10 cities, and then it stands there for a long time. Then by the time you realize, it starts filing up again, and there is no. It seems there's a struggle to get to a single digit exchange rate.
So what we are doing is to manage stability. We are not managing big jumps, whether downward or upwards. We are managing stability. And stability means that the exchange rate will vary within acceptable range so that businessmen can plan. Okay, it is not the same as just starting from 10 cities, you are roaming at 6 cities. No. That already is very drastic. And we should know also that the exchange rate, as much as it influences the price and the cost of doing business because we are import-dependent economy, it also has implications for our exports. So when the exchange rate is drastically low, what it means is that our exports become less competitive and more expensive in the international market. So we are mindful of these variables and play the game in such a way that we are able to satisfy various stakeholder interests. Now, structural reforms. Clearly, when you have an economy where they undertook the debt restructuring and forcefully took 60 billion Ghana cedis from Ghanaians that gave the government money in the DDEP and collapsed the capital market domestically, what it means is that there are no more any opportunities for Ghanaians to invest that money. So if you have 60 billion roaming in that economy, 80 billion they printed roaming in that economy, and there are no avenues to invest that money. Where do you think that money will find itself? It will find itself into the foreign exchange market. So people now have 80 billion to go and buy dollars. What happens to the dollar? The dollar, and that is the reason they took depreciation to 54%. So the first thing we did was make sure that that 80 billion that didn't support economic growth goes back to the barracks so that people don't have that excess 80 billion printed money to go buy in dollars. And when you are able to manage the demand for dollars, you have a better opportunity to stabilize the currency. That is a clear policy intent. It is not magic. Another group of people say, let's print and pump 80 billion. We don't mind whether they go buying dollars and the dollar depreciates. Another say, look, let's bring those dollars and those cedis back into the economy in order to prevent excess demand of the dollars, so that the people who buy dollars are the people who really need it to bring in imports. That is what we have done. So apart from managing the monetary aggregates to control this, we also took a very important policy measure by government to institute what we call the gold board. What the gold board does is to convert what we call the CD assets, CDs that you have, you convert it into assets that can generate forex for you.
Okay.
So we take CDs, we use the CDs to buy gold from Ghanaians, and then we're able to sell the gold and generate forex. Don't forget that we assumed this office at a time that there was no capacity, or the country had been barred from the international capital market, where they used to borrow $3 billion or more a year to support the city. You didn't have that. So you have to, in fact, you don't even have to think outside the box. You must think without the box.
Because now they also accuse you of always pumping a lot
I'm coming to that. So you can see that we were constrained by our inability to generate forex loans to support the city. So we had to find a way to use our natural resources to do that. And we set up the Gold Board to do that. And Gold Board delivers close to $1 billion a month. Okay? Now, the central bank has an approved forex market policy. That policy is approved even by the World Bank and the IMF. And that policy says that, look, when you generate forex, first, make sure that you have set aside what you need to help government meet its external obligations. So the loans that the government has taken in the past, it has to service them. you must make forex available. It also says that most of our IPPs are in dollars. Make sure that you have enough dollars to take off of the IPPs. Okay? Then set aside what you need to build the reserves at the bank. Okay? As we speak now, we have been able to accumulate enough reserves to achieve what the IMF said we should do in 3 years. We did it in 1 year. The reserve requirement, as stipulated by the IMF for 2028, was met in 2025. Okay? Then he says that when you are now left with excess, after having done all of that and built the reserve and taking care of those obligations, the rest that you have, those monies came from the economy. Gold is not generated by the economy.
Yeah.
So where does it belong?
It belongs to the economy.
So you now send it back. If you send it back, have you pumped dollars?
Well, so I don't.
Do you get the point?
Really,
so
yeah.
clearly, nobody has pumped dollars. What you have done is that the economy organically generated dollars. The central bank, using the forex market policy, decided to deal with all these variables: government obligation, IPPs, reserve requirement by the IMF, and then the rest you give it to the people who need it. That is not pumping dollars. In fact, we came to meet forex reserve of $8 billion. As we speak today, our reserve position is 14 billion. How do you pump 10 billion out of 8 billion?